So today we're here with David from SOAS University in the UK, in London. Dave, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And if you could tell us a little bit more about what makes SOAS unique, just tell us a bit more about the university.
Sure. Well, SOAS is very unique in what it does, not just in the UK, but actually across the world. And this is in a number of different ways. Primarily this is, of course, in the academics that we offer. So we do focus more on the arts, the humanities, the law, social sciences, arts and cultures. Now, where we are different from other universities would be that instead of focusing entirely from a Western point of view, which is what you will find in other UK universities, SOAS allows students to combine a very strong global focus across all of our degree areas, but also gives the students the opportunities to take classes in countries or regions across the world that you wouldn't find at other UK universities. So, for example, in Africa, Asia or the Middle East. And because of that focus, we are usually considered to be the world's leading institution for the study of Africa, Asia and the Middle East. But that doesn't mean that by coming to SOAS, the only thing you will do is study Asian or African affairs. It's just simply you have the chance to take some classes that will allow you to focus or develop an expertise in the part of the world that you wouldn't normally find elsewhere in the UK.
Okay. And what are your minimum entry requirements for IB students? What would you be looking at?
It will depend on the programme. So I think typically we would look for 38 for the more popular programmes like international relations and law. The minimum requirement would be 32. That would be for programmes such as music, the study of religions. So it will vary between 32 minimum up until 38 for the more popular programmes. So I guess it will always depend on the programmes that students will apply for.
Okay, and for the English requirements, do you accept IB English or do students need TOEFL, IELTS?
We will need students to have TOEFL or IELTS, so we would look for a 7.0 overall and a minimum of 6.5 across each of the sections. So I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to take higher level English by itself.
Okay. And you don't require ACTs, SATs, and I understand you also don't give credit for IB students, unfortunately.
We don't give credit, unfortunately. We don't need SATs or ACTs for IB students. The IB in itself is more than sufficient for entry requirements.
Okay. And about the teaching now a little bit, what is the average classroom size, teacher-student ratio?
It's a good question. Because SOAS is much smaller in terms of its size, so instead of 20,000 students, we have about just under 6,000 students at SOAS, so it does mean that there's a naturally smaller group of students per class. Of course, for more popular subjects like law and international relations, you may find there could be 80 to 100 students in a lecture theatre, but of course that will always be broken down into smaller tutorial groups. So it really will depend on the classes, because for something like the study of religions, you would maybe have a much smaller group of students already. But the student-to-teacher ratio is amongst one of the best in the UK, so at the moment we have an overall average of 11 to 1, and for some programmes it would be 6 to 1, so I guess, as always, it would depend on the particular programmes, but it's very good.
That's great. And do you offer accommodation off campus?
We do offer accommodation. Unfortunately, we cannot guarantee that for all of our students. So the way it would work would be that for students who are making their applications, if you've received an offer and accepted it, and it's your first choice offer, we will then offer you the opportunity to apply for accommodation from March. Our accommodation is close to the university, so you wouldn't ever have to go too far to get from your halls to the university. So no more than 15 minutes walking distance, or of course you could take the bus, or you could take the tube by going one tube stop over. So it's all very close by. And of course with UK universities, each student will have their own room. It may be in an apartment style, and all of our rooms will be en suite, so you do have a bathroom right next to you. And it will be more like an apartment style, and you'll share with students from 4 or 5 different universities. But in addition to that, being a University of London school, there's also University of London accommodation available to you. So if you couldn't get into SOAS halls, you still have the opportunity to take a place in one of the University of London halls, and there's about 7 halls of residence across London. So you will have accommodation options, and it's always just going to be a case of being prepared, doing your research, talking to the universities to find out exactly how accommodation would work. But there are options there, and we always ensure that all of our incoming students are placed for accommodation before they come to the UK, which is hugely important for us.
Yes, that's really important and good to know. And lastly, about costs, what are the average tuition fees, living expenses?
Yeah, the important question.
Exactly.
For tuition fees, I think we're looking at between 14 to 15,500 pounds. Again, that would depend on the particular degree programme that students would enrol into at SOAS. Beyond that, I think living in London, again, it's going to be down to a student's particular lifestyle choices, but we would recommend for London it's probably about 10 to 12,000 pounds as a ballpark figure.
That's per year.
Per year, yeah, I should say per year. So I suppose overall you're looking at about £25,000 per year, which of course is not inexpensive, but you do get such a significant return on investment, not just academically and career-wise, but also just in terms of the social opportunities by being in London and having everything around you.
Lovely. And do you offer scholarships for Hong Kong students?
We don't have specific scholarships for Hong Kong students, I'm afraid. There will be a small array of undergraduate scholarships that are available, but it isn't really until we get to the postgraduate stage where we see a much more greater range of scholarships available. But there will be some small scholarships open to students from not just within the UK or Europe, but across the world. They will of course be based on academic merit, not maybe on the basis of nationality. So there are some options there.
Okay, well thank you very much for your time coming in. If you have any other questions or want to know more about SOAS, just go to the website directly, or you can come in and have a chat to us about it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.